Welcome everyone to the first episode of the Palmetto Guardian. Today we will be talking about annual training, summer safety, pets, and hurricane preparedness. Welcome everyone, I'm Specialist Chelsea Baker.
And I'm Specialist David Erskine.
And so we're going to go right into our first topic, which is annual training.
Annual training, yep. It is the season, as it were.
I can't believe that it's already almost June.
I know. And it got hot fast, right?
Yes, very hot.
I mean, we're suffering through 100 degrees, days here. And so getting ready for annual training, getting out there and getting ready. And one of the big things to do leading up, or a smart thing, I should say, to do, is to check your equipment.
Yes.
Well in advance before you get ready to go on annual training. Lay everything out, make sure it's there. It's going to rain, more than likely. It's a good chance. Make sure you got wet weather gear, stuff to cover up your gear with. If you're traveling, not to say that it's cold here, but if you go somewhere cold, you might want to check, make sure you got some cold weather stuff. If you're going to like Alaska for annual training, I don't know.
That would be fun.
It would be awesome, right?
But I mean,
no.
I don't think we're
going to Alaska. But,
No.
But you never know. If you wind up there, make sure you got a jacket or something, right?
Yeah, definitely don't wait until the month before and go into supply and say, hey, I need all this equipment, because you're not going to get it.
No.
They'll laugh at you probably.
Yeah, definitely not cold weather gear.
No.
Not this time of year.
No.
I don't even know if they have it in stock. Another big thing is, you're going out, you got long days, taking some snacks with you. We all talk about it, we do it for the most part, but some folks might not know, younger soldiers might not know. Tell them, hey, bring you some beef jerky, you might get long hours in between, breakfast and lunch or something like that. Mm-hmm. Get something snack. You might have some night duty, bring you some healthy stuff, whatever you like, comfort food too. Nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, but also keep in mind that typically when you're in the field, you're going to eat at least one MRE a day, typically for lunch, depending on where you're at, what you're doing. And I know I've been in it for long enough, and I know lots of people that will refuse to eat MREs. Me personally, I don't mind them. There's some that are better than others.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those people, definitely make sure you have maybe canned food that doesn't have to be heated, that has the pop tops, or
tuna. If you're a
fan
of tuna, tuna's a good one if you like.
Which they do have tuna MREs if you're lucky, but those are kind of hard to come across.
Yeah, like one every 3 or 4 cases or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but stuff like that. Beanie weenies. I'm a fan of beanie weenies. I grew up eating
SpaghettiOs. I can eat those right out of the can.
Oh my Lord,
those are good.
You and my wife should hang out. Anyway. Another thing, bringing up the wife, another big consideration going into annual training is your family and making sure they're prepared.
Mm-hmm.
We have kids. Me and my wife have kids. And she works. And obviously if I'm gone, you got to have a good plan in place for who taking care of the kids, whether it's, a family member, friends, daycare, spouse has to take time off from work to stay home, whatever it is, just make sure you have a good plan and it's ready. Wait until the last second on that, and then trying to find, babysitters to care for the kids. That's just,
it's so stressful.
Yeah, it's too much stress, much stress. And you want annual training to go as smooth and as easy as possible, So, yeah, definitely having a good plan in place for the youngins is always a good idea.
Yeah. I don't have children personally, but I do have fur babies. So definitely make sure you're keeping your animals in mind. I know sometimes you might be stressed and you're going through a lot, and so the last thing on your mind is not care for your children, but you sometimes forget about animals, and not just dogs and cats, but I mean some people have birds or lizards and stuff, snakes, so I mean they still need to be taken care of.
Or betta fish.
Or they have to have food too. I
know an airman that she went out and she made sure she made arrangements for somebody to watch her betta fish for,
See, I mean, it doesn't matter what you have. They all need love.
Well, I mean, they're part of the family, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, most people consider them family or extended family, which, brings us to the point of, about having pets and owning pets and stuff like that is, I have two pets myself. I have a cat that thinks she's a dog, and a dog that thinks he's a throw rug. He holds down the tile floor extremely well at his age. But they're extended family, and pets are a lot of fun. They can be a lot of stress, but they can be a lot of fun. They use animals, in the hospitals as far as like therapy pets. It's been shown that, petting animals helps reduce blood pressure and things like that. And going into this season, with all the heat and the summer and everything like that, there's a lot of good organizations in the South Carolina area. If you've been thinking about a pet or, considering something like that, there's a lot of good places to, adopt a pet and get pets from in the area.
Yeah. They all need homes. I don't like going down the street and seeing stray cats and dogs, and you want to take all of them home, but you can't. So, it's nice. And you can also foster. I've looked into that before, but it kind of didn't work out just because of my schedule and stuff. But test it out, see if you like it. And then if it works out, then you can potentially adopt them as well. So,
yeah. And, South or Columbia especially, and in Greenville too, Charleston. A lot of South Carolina is becoming a lot more pet friendly. Just walking down Main Street, Columbia on the weekends, a lot of little restaurants and stuff down there are now pet friendly on the patio. So you can take your dog out and have a little,
yuppie hour.
And there's the Bark in the Park thing that happens every year around here. So there's a lot of events and stuff that you can do with your animals, in the areas and stuff. And for some people, pets aren't just pets. Sometimes, like I said, mentioned before, therapy dogs and stuff in the hospital. Sometimes pets are a touchstone, for people, especially military folks. And you mentioned you don't have kids, but you come home, you spend time away from your animals, and you come home, and it's got to be kind of a exhilarating feeling when you get back and they're happy to see you and you get to kind of spend that time with them, right?
Yeah, definitely. You miss them every chance that you can't spend time with them, but then whenever you're home and you're like, oh, get away from me, just because you want your own space. But they love you. They just want you to care for them, and that's all they want is love. Yeah,
they just want you to love them and care for them. And that's a big thing is caring for your animals, especially leading into the summer. Any time of year, it's always important, but summer can be exceptionally brutal on animals. The 101 days of summer, and be brutal on animals and be brutal on people. So heat's cranking up out there. Afternoon thunderstorms. People are traveling. Vacations and stuff. So safety becomes paramount around this time of year. Some things to keep in mind. If you're an outside person, you like being outside, you work outside, or you garden, your hobby, or whatever, it's outdoors, make sure you're hydrating. Make sure you're hydrating. Water, electrolytes, keep those things on board. Dehydration, heat stroke, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It happens every day in South Carolina.
And not just drinking when you're thirsty, because you're not going to feel the effects until it's right there and it's about to happen, and then you're like, it's too late at that point. So just making sure you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day, things with electrolytes. Military is big on coffee and energy drinks. I don't personally drink energy drinks and stuff. I did start drinking coffee in the morning, but we live off of it basically, and especially annual training and stuff. That's one thing that people grab when you stop. Yeah, you can have one or two, but to sit there and drink that all day, it's just going to suck all of the energy out of you.
Yeah, and you don't want that.
No.
You're already going to be working hard. You're already going to be working hard. Don't make it harder on yourself. Traveling, summer, both annual training traveling and, vacation traveling. The roads are hectic. Make a plan when you get ready to travel. Let people know, the route that you're planning to take in case that, they don't hear from you or something like that. If there's an accident, try to travel at times where there's maybe not as much traffic. Make sure you're well rested.
Yes.
Don't go on a 14-hour sprint or something like that and then try to drive for 8 hours after that. It's it's not safe. Make sure you stop and taking breaks and giving your legs time to stretch out and things like that. You want to make sure, and then once you get to your destination, make sure you're safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Check in. My mom is big about when I go anywhere. Text me when you get there. Text when you leave. And I'm so bad about remembering. And then I get a call later like, you didn't text me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I forgot.
All right. But you worry.
It doesn't matter how old you are. They're still going to worry about you.
Yeah. I had that happen this morning, actually, with my wife. She got off 12-hour, well, actually a 16-hour shift because she had a class beforehand. And I got off the phone with her a little bit before she got home and said, text me when you get home.
And she didn't.
And she didn't. So guess what?
You got her.
I started ringing the phone off the hook. She was like, "Oh, I forgot." And I was like, "But I need to know. I need to know she's safe." And that's kind of normal with all family members. Not just out of state traveling or vacation traveling. There's a lot of weekend stuff. People going to the lakes and stuff like that.
The boat, the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay safe. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
Definitely wear sunscreen. I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson big time. So definitely wear sunscreen. If you're in the woods or the mountains, bug spray. Because, nothing's worse than mosquito or chigger bites. And even in the field, because you're in your uniform. And, and all that heat just traps in. So, Yeah,
there's a lot of creepy crawlies out. During the summer. Not only that, you got snakes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of waterways around here. If you see wildlife, just leave it alone. Mm-hmm. Just leave it alone. No reason to mess with it. It's just add more risk to the situation if you do. Now, as we go out and we travel around outside of annual training, it's naive to think that people aren't going to have a drink here and there. That's nothing against it, of age. Yeah. Just, the rule of that is just be responsible with it. Don't drink and drive.
No. Call a friend. I bet anybody has at least one person in their phone that if they called or text, they would probably help them out in some way, shape, or form. And not only that, but we're in 2019. We have Uber, we have Lyft. There's no excuse for you to not use the resources to keep out of trouble.
Yeah, a $40 Uber ride's a lot cheaper than a $1,000 DUI, plus the effects it has on your career and everything else. So,
exactly.
Just be responsible with it. No reason to go overboard with it. A big one for me, and I always like talking about this because I spend most of my time on the lake, is boating safety. Especially places like Lake Murray. They get extremely busy. You get a lot of people out there. Sometimes there's alcohol involved. But boater safety is huge, and we've had accidents here in South Carolina. If you're out on a boat, make sure you got your stuff with you. Before you go out, check your life jackets. Make sure you got your throwable. Make sure you have some type of auditory device, whether it's a whistle or an air horn or a built-in horn on the boat, to signal other boaters. Follow basic boating rules. No wakes in the no wake zones and stuff like that. Because listen, when things go wrong on the water, they go bad fast.
Yeah. There's no turning back.
And there's no turning back. So, yes, boater safety, huge deal in my house, and it should be for anybody that operates and uses boats. Along with safety comes the hurricane season, and we'll be joined here shortly by Derrec Becker from the South Carolina EMD to talk with us about hurricane preparedness. All right, so hurricane season's on us.
Yeah.
It's not even around the corner, it's on us. We're lucky enough to have with us today Derrec Becker, the Public Information Officer from South Carolina Emergency Management Division.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Glad to have you here. You're going to talk with us about some stuff we can do for hurricane season, yeah?
Absolutely. Well, hurricane season begins June 1st. We've already had one named storm this 2019. Hurricane Andrea started in May, so we're already checking off the names on the hurricane list for this year. But I got to say, we've certainly been through it over the last few years, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've looked at very carefully as we get ready for the 2019 hurricane season is how can we streamline our processes and procedures and planning and all that kind of stuff for the state's emergency response team, which the Guard is a member of, and how can we also streamline what residents need to do. And so one of the big things we did this year was we changed our operational conditions, or OPCONs, if you will. Everybody likes to focus on the OPCONs. So before we had 5 different OPCONs. It just indicates that level of readiness. Now we're at 3. So OPCON 3 is normal day-to-day operations, and then as it looks like a storm or hurricane in this case is headed our way, we'll slowly upgrade to OPCON 2, and then OPCON 1 would be when we're issuing evacuations and things like that. So for all the guardsmen out there, when it comes to that level of readiness, when you see OPCON 2 on the news or OPCON 1, it's kind of different, but also kind of the same. That just means we all need to be ready, have our plans in place, we're ready to go, because a lot of the stuff that we would do normally would be, the indicators would be under normal situations this time. And we did that just because it just makes all the steps we have to take that much less. And so we can get ready, lean forward a little bit faster. And so, but yeah, it is hurricane season. It's one of those things that we know we have to get ready for, but we really need a break, I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, we're getting a lot of practice in on these. This early on, in the year, like I said, we're just getting into it. We've already had one named storm, like you mentioned. For the citizens and soldiers and people of South Carolina, what's some stuff that we can start doing today to make it as easy as possible? I mean, it's never easy when a storm hits, but you make it easy as possible once that storm starts coming in.
Absolutely. Now's the time when we're actually in a drought status and we're getting no rain to review your hurricane plan, not just for if you'll be working during the storm, but also for your entire family. Who will be able to take care of those hurricane-related things if you happen to be deployed? That's absolutely essential. We can't stress that enough. I'm come from a military family, and if my family was like a lot of military families, my mom was the one who handled everything pretty much because Dad was deployed. And so, make sure you review your insurance plans. Make sure everybody in your family knows what your hurricane plan is. If you live in one of the evacuation zones on the coast, make sure you know that zone, because that's how we'll call for any evacuations. If you live inland, be aware, the entire state is susceptible to the effects of a hurricane. We saw the flood in 2015, which was sort of influenced by Hurricane Joaquin, Hurricane Matthew in 2016, Hurricane Irma in 2017, Hurricane Florence in 2018. So all of the effects that can result, even if you're not in a coastal area seeing the direct impact of a storm, you could see flooding, high wind, rain, hail. You need to be prepared for those. So one of the big things, have that personal plan. Have a personal communications plan. How are you going to stay in touch with everybody? The SC Emergency Manager mobile app is a great tool. You can actually send your GPS location to your friends or to your emergency contacts in the app. You can also keep track of all of your emergency planning, all of your personal information, like what your insurance policy number is and all that stuff in the app, as well as knowing what hurricane zone you're in. There's a ton of different features in there. It's in the App Store for Apple and on Google Play. It's SC Emergency Manager. So go ahead and download that now as you're getting ready for this hurricane season. Second thing is pick up a copy of the 2019 Hurricane Guide, just hot off the presses. You can pick it up in Walgreens, the coastal DMV offices, every welcome center. I believe, too, the Military Museum has a copy if you're here at headquarters. Also, you can download it on our website, scemd.org. So if you ever have a question about sheltering or what to do with debris or what the category hurricane means, all of those types of things, it's all right here in the guide. It's also a reference to all the inland flooding that we see, which for a lot of our citizen soldiers, that's typically what they've been in terms of rescuing people and getting supplies to where they needed to go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a busy mission for us,
right,
during all that. So, we're prepping, and you get into the storm, and sometimes all that prep kind of falters, even if you're fully prepared for
Absolutely.
it. I mean,
yeah.
it's a tragic, catastrophic type situation. What's some, I guess, good tips to do once kind of in the storm? It's here, it's hitting, where do we go from there?
As important as the plan is, on paper, in your app, what have you, as important as that is, what's even more important are the conversations and the connections that you make in putting that plan together. That way you can rely on each other to accommodate and to be flexible and to adapt to whatever given situation. We have a very big state hurricane plan. If you need help getting to sleep tonight, crack that puppy open. It's meant as a reference tool, not something to memorize.
Right.
But if you look at that plan, it's the result of all these state and local agencies coming together and say, this is what we'll do, this is what we're facing, these are our resources. We always understand that that plan is for the things that we can foresee, that we know are going to happen, with the caveat that there will be so many different other things that will come up that we have never predicted or could have never anticipated. So if you've got your people in place that know what to do and can adapt and be flexible, then you can accommodate or you can adjust whatever you need to a given scenario. Who would have expected that we would have seen so much inland flooding from Hurricane Florence? We were prepping for the direct impact from a hurricane in Myrtle Beach. Well, sucker turned and went into North Carolina and hit right at the North Carolina-South Carolina line. And then all of the water that Florence dumped on North Carolina came through the river system into Marion County, into Dillon, all the places that were wiped out during Matthew. They saw it even worse. So how do you adapt to that situation? A lot of different areas were not ready for that type of flooding. Know how to ask for help. First and foremost, know where you will go to request resources or where emergency supplies are if you're at home. Have that backup plan. Have a backup communications plan. We all use our cell phones for everything, to pay the bills, to talk to each other. We all use social media. Well, what happens if you didn't charge your phone? What happens if you didn't have a backup battery? So do you have a NOAA weather radio at home? That's always a good tool. Think of it like a smoke detector, but for tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, all of that type of thing. And change your batteries on it too.
Right.
So just a number of different things. Main thing is making sure that you're in contact with people and that people know what you're going through.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is a large part of it. Is communication's key. Even on our side of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're moving through not only communication with our mission and what we're doing, but keeping in communication with our families back home. We can get kind of tied up in work sometimes, but you have to make sure that you're touching back home.
Yeah.
Time to time, make sure everything's going good there, so that you can keep pressing down range on everything.
Absolutely. And when there is a large disaster like a hurricane in South Carolina, the state's plan is to codify and condense all of those lines of communication into one central resource, and that's the State Emergency Operations Center. Requests for resources, volunteers, aid, that sort of thing, all flow through the SEOC, which is in West Columbia. There's a process in place for requesting those resources. We encourage Guardsmen not to just spontaneously deploy. Obviously, that can pose a whole different set of hazards. We don't know where they could be used the most unless we get resource requests. Everything we do is based on requests from our local first responders and our county emergency managers. So work with us, be a part of Team South Carolina. General McCarty has been very adamant about the need for all agencies and everybody who's a part of Team South Carolina to work together, because we're not in this alone. Hurricanes affect everyone.
And you mentioned Team South Carolina, and that's something we see a lot of when we get into hurricane season, is just the citizens wanting to volunteer.
Yeah.
And especially I've been out in the storms and covering, doing photo and video, and you get a lot of questions. How can I help? Where can I volunteer? So is there a source or an information part
Absolutely.
for these people who want to volunteer, that they can get a hold of this during a storm and help out?
Definitely. And if you've gone through any of the past hurricanes that we've seen over the past couple of years and you felt like you've wanted to contribute, now's the time to get affiliated with a volunteer agency. You can actually go to our website, scemd.org, and click on the Recover tab up at the top, and it says ways to get help, ways to give help. And you can get affiliated with a volunteer organization if that's your choosing. We've got a list of all the verified volunteer organizations that are actually active during a disaster scenario, like the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, Harvest Hope Food Bank. Our faith-based organizations have disaster response teams as well. But even if you don't want to do that, don't necessarily need to worry about getting affiliated with a large organization. Help your neighbors out. help your community out. If you know that you have an elderly neighbor who needs a little extra help, either evacuating or helping clean up debris, walk across the street and help her out. It doesn't take a lot to give. If you want to give stuff and donate it to the larger effort, probably not going to go very far, so give it to your local community, because I assure you the need is there today and will be there after a disaster.
You mentioned after disaster. You know, a lot of times, a lot of spin up, a lot of hype getting into the storm. You get the storm, you're moving and shaking, the storm's over, and everybody takes a breath. But really, the work starts for a lot of people
Right.
after the storm. A lot of the storm is just kind of weathering it and, making sure everybody's safe through the storm. But real work starts, after the storm. And I don't know if everybody always thinks about that part of it and has a plan. We do it, we always kind of prep. We ride the storm, and then we turn around and look, and everything's laying on the ground, and you go, what do we do now?
Right. And so our hard work it happens when the excitement is over. You see the storm making landfall, and then trees getting blown over, and reporters wading through floodwaters as the storm is making landfall, and probably for a little bit after that. But as we transition into the recovery phase, our work is just beginning. We still have active recovery operations from the 2014 ice storm, the 2015 flood, Matthew, Irma, Florence, and so on and so forth. But we've had more than $1 billion. We've coordinated more than $1 billion worth of recovery effort in the state. The Emergency Management Division has, and we're continuing to work. Following a disaster, the state's Emergency Operations Center, the local responder agencies start to stand down their operations from the life safety missions, and we transition into that recovery period, and it can take a long time. What do we do with debris? How does somebody clean up debris and get rid of it from their home? And so that's why it's so important to pay attention to local media reports. If you don't have access to local media, people will be going door to door, doing safety checks. They'll have information on what you can do. But now's the time to review that insurance policy that you have, your homeowner's policy, your vehicle insurance policy, maybe even your health and life, to see what injuries are covered. Because we've seen several situations where people will go to file with their insurance, and they might not necessarily be covered for flood, but they are for wind and hail, or any of those types of things. So now's the time when the sky is blue, it's hot as all get out, but you can still go and visit with your insurance agent to see what types of coverage your policy has and what it doesn't have, and then you can make adjustments, because if you try to do that right before the storm, it won't be valid, and you'll be out of luck. So go ahead, do those checks. It's the start of hurricane season. We've got a little bit of time. The prime, most active part of hurricane season is late August, early September. But we're not going to, sit around and wait for those months to come. Now's the time to do it. Yeah. But insurance will always be the first step to disaster recovery. If the storm is big enough and there's enough damage, there might be federal programs available through FEMA. We've seen those come up over the past couple of years. Disaster recovery centers might be set up. So it's going to be so important to really assess what your needs are, what you're able to do either through your insurance, volunteer organizations who are giving stuff and resources and people helping clean up, and then going to the federal government disaster recovery programs that are available.
Oh, yeah. That's outstanding. So I guess just a kind of a quick synopsis here. It sounds like if you don't know where to start, the best place to go is y'all's website. That's kind of the... Absolutely.
scemd.org. During a disaster, and even today, during a disaster, we flip a switch, and the website becomes or transitions into emergency mode, and the front page is essentially a bunch of links and buttons that are finger-friendly that you can access on where the shelter locations are, evacuation routes, hotel information if you don't want to go to a shelter, all of those types of things. And it will stay that way well into the recovery phase until we get a sensing that things are starting to get back to a new normal, if you will. Our theme this year, and we started it last year, we're continuing this year for hurricane season, is to have a plan, make it personal. We need people to be their own emergency manager and be the help until help arrives.
Great. That's outstanding. I guess one last thing, if you had kind of a top 5 tips for hurricane season, what would they be? If I could just write down 5 things on a business card to keep in my wallet to know going into hurricane season, what would those be?
Number 1, have a plan for everyone in your family. Include pets in your plan. Take them with you if you happen to evacuate. Even if you hear on the news that shelters are not accepting pets, you can go to a shelter with a pet and they will help you make arrangements for your pet. Look out for everyone in the family. Pack an extra charger for your phone. That's the one thing I always forget. And then have the resources or cash, whatever, that you can use to either fill up your car at least once and then be self-sufficient for at least a week.
Okay. All right. All that sounds like outstanding information.
Have a plan. Make it personal. Always remember the first 72 could be on you.
That's right. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you stopping by.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was some great information from Derrec Becker with the SCEMD department.
Yeah, it was. It was good stuff. Everybody should keep everything that he said in mind and actually put it in practice. For those of you who are watching this video on YouTube, maybe not the people who are listening to it on iTunes or not, but have noticed this huge 1670 behind us here in the podcast stage area, as it were. Some might immediately know what the 1670 is. Some people might not have a clue what the 1670 is up there for. It's not an FM radio or AM radio channel where we're broadcasting. This was where the South Carolina National Guard draws our heritage back to the date 1670. It was the establishment of Charleston, which is where you live.
Yep.
Where you live. But they brought the militia system with them, and that militia is where South Carolina draws their heritage from, the South Carolina National Guard. And so that's kind of our birth date as it was 1670. So like I said, for all of you watching on YouTube, and we're looking at that number going, what in the world is that? And that's what that is. That's
It's not just some random numbers we chose out of the sky and put on the wall.
Right. So that's our birthday or founding year, as it were. But it's been a pretty good show.
Yeah, I mean, our first one, it's kind of nerve-wracking and still trying to figure things out, but I think it was pretty good. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. It was awesome being able to get, like I said, Derrec to come by. We hope to continue to have some special guests. If you're on our social media out there, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our website, seguard.com, if there's some topics maybe that y'all want to hear about or whatnot,
information.
Information.
How to get information.
Hit us up on those, and maybe we can get the right, special guest in here to talk, or it's maybe topics that myself and Specialist Baker can talk about. A lot of fun. We hope to do a lot of these.
Yes.
A lot of these. We hope this catches on, and the soldiers,
goes with it.
Yeah, soldier airmen really like it. And citizens of South Carolina, hopefully it'll be informative for everybody. This is a for everybody podcast. Not just not Army folks or Air folks or whatever. It's for all of South Carolina and the nation, world if we get that big. Worldwide.
Very ambitious over here.
I am super ambitious. I want to be a worldwide phenomenon is what I want to be.
Overnight, right?
Overnight. I expect to wake up in the morning and have 1.3 million views on this video.
We'll test that theory, and we'll let you guys know in the next episode.
Yeah, how well we did. So.
All right, well, I'm Specialist Chelsea Baker.
And I'm Specialist David Erskine.
And we'll catch you in the next episode.